on your backs with your feet just planted on the floor. And your hands can be by your side or on your body, on your hips or your stomach, whatever feels good. And just take a nice big inhale. And just as you exhale, feel like you sort of sink maybe a centimeter into the floor. Like the floor is just taking you all in. And take another breath in and then breathe out. And feel yourself get nice and heavy on the floor. From here, regardless of where your hands are, you're going to bring some fingers to your hip bones, your thumbs or other fingers to your rib cage, and then just take a nice big inhale. Feel your ribs expand, your stomach expand, and then as you exhale, feel your hips draw gently up towards your ribs. And then release and feel that distance grow. And then on your exhale, feel that gentle tuck under of the tailbone as your hips come up towards your ribs, and then release. And then if you want to bring a hand onto your ribs, after that engagement, starting at the pelvic floor, going all the way up the abdominals, feel that gentle close of the ribs. Should be nice and heavy on the floor. And then release your hips. Inhale one more time. Exhale. And then inhale as you release. And exhale. Good. And then you're just going to bring your knees nice and wide. And then bring your hands sort of into the goalpost position by your head. So elbows in line with your shoulders. And then you're just going to let your knees fall over to the right. And take a nice big inhale here. Notice if your shoulder wants to come up off the floor, your left hip will be off the ground. That's fine. And then let your knees come up and over to the left. Again, does your shoulder want to peel up? One more time to the right. And then up and over to the left. And then bring your legs more or less like glued together. And then you're going to bring them into tabletop / let them fall over to the right. And you want your hips stacked. And then you're going to come to lay all the way on that right side. You're going to have both hands behind your head and your elbows are pointing straight ahead. And then from here, you're just going to take a nice big inhale. That bottom arm stays pressing into the floor. And you're just going to start to open yourself up. But pay attention to your knees. They'll tell you what's happening in your hips. So come back onto that right side, and then we're going to twist back open. If your hips start to not stay stacked, I don't know if you can see the detail of my knees that closely, but my top knee has come way behind my bottom knee. So I'm going to try to think about pressing or reaching forward with my right knee as I rotate to really keep the rotation through just my upper spine. And then again. And then get to a place where you can comfortably stay. And if that means your knees separate and you come more onto your back, that's totally fine. Your right hand is going to come onto your rib cage on the left side, and your right hand is going to stay behind your head. If this is uncomfortable, you can do this just being all the way on your right side with your left hand on your left rib cage. So whichever one is more comfortable for you. Take a nice big inhale and feel your ribs expand underneath that right hand. So thinking about forcing your breath to sort of go over to that left side. And you're just going to take a few breaths. If you find that you get good mobility through the ribs towards the bottom of the rib cage, slide your hand up a little closer towards your armpit. And maybe you're only feeling your front ribs move and not your back ribs. So bring that hand farther behind you. Or focus on breathing into the fingertips of that hand rather than the heel of your hand. We're going to spend like another 30 seconds or so here on this side breathing. Really trying to find all 360 degrees that your breath could go. If you find you have a real sticky spot on your back and you need to take that hand out from behind your head, go for it. One more breath regardless of where you are. And then come back, both hands behind your head on that right side. And then you're just going to open back up. Keep reaching that top knee forward. And then come forward 2 more, just finding maybe your range of motion has increased. Now that you mobilized some of those little tiny muscles in between your ribs, relax your back a little. And then once you're over here on this right side, you are just going to press yourself up, separate your legs so that your left leg reaches back, your right leg is in line, parallel with the long side of the mat. And then just place your right hand down and side bend up and over to the right. And then rotate gently towards the floor. And you can do this with your hand behind your head if you prefer. And then reach your arm back long, reaching over to the right. And then again, rotate down. You can add a little extension, looking up, lifting your chest as you rotate down towards the floor. And then one more time, reach up and over to the right. And then twist and rotate, lift your chest. And then from here, you're gonna bring your hands behind you. And you're gonna press up so that you've not sunk down. And then you're just gonna lift your legs up and you're gonna, I need to bring my legs more in front of me. And then you're gonna go up and over and switch the direction of your 90-90. Take a second to figure out where you need to be with your feet in order to be able to do this. The farther your feet are away from your body, the easier this is. Again, pressing up through the hands. Using your breath, trying to keep your tailbone, but your sitting bones on the floor as best you can. You may be able to get your legs all the way to the ground. I certainly cannot. One more time to the right. And then last time to the left. And then you're just going to come here to lay down on your other side now. So laying on your left side, you're just going to start all the way in this left position. Knees are stacked, hands behind your head, elbows pointing forward, arms parallel to one another. And then you're just going to think about reaching that top knee forward slightly as you rotate open. And then coming back. One more time. All right, and then you're gonna stay here. So find where it's comfortable. Again, you can let your knees separate if that feels better, or stay all the way on that left side, your choice. And then bring your hand onto that right rib cage. And then when you're ready, well, you're breathing all the time, but breathe with intention. Take a nice breath in. Feel those ribs start to separate underneath your hand, in your fingertips, across your back. And then exhale. Trying to keep as much tension out of your upper body as you can, your face as well. And again, if you need to remove that right hand from behind your head to try to reach another spot, go for it. About another 30 seconds, 4 or so more breaths. Last one. And then come all the way back, stack those knees up again, hands behind your head. And then rotate up and open. Again, notice if maybe you've increased your range of motion. Maybe you haven't. Maybe this side is way tighter than the other side. That's okay. Last one. And then press your hand into the floor, separate your feet. Left hand comes to the ground. Right hand lifts, side bend up and over. Ooh. Maybe it feels a little weird because you have mobility or movement and muscles that are stuck most of the time. And then you're going to lower that arm down, or again, hand behind your head and find some length through the torso as you lift. And then again, rotate forward, side bend up and over, and then lift. One more time. And lift. And then bring your feet around in front of you if you need. Hands back behind you. Again, press into the floor, lift your chest. And then you're just gonna open your legs nice and wide and send them over to the right and left. Trying to keep the stillness through the hips. I mean, they'll rock from one side to another a bit, but really just trying to keep the internal and external rotation of your femurs. It's the star of the show. One more time to the left. And then the right. And then you're just going to fold your legs underneath you and come to all fours. Having your hands right underneath your shoulders in a nice neutral spine. You're going to let your shoulder blades slide in towards your spine and then press away. And then again, 2 more times, let them slide in and then press up and away. Last one. Press up and away. And then from here, feel your ribs glide towards your ribs as you round your spine up towards the ceiling. Taking a nice deep breath. Feeling the ribs expand on your back. And then exhale. Here. And then as you inhale now, you're going to untuck your spine, widen the distance between your ribs and your hips, and gently look forward. And again, curl your tailbone under, round up through your spine, and find that extension. Think about widening your sitting bones here. Heels of the hands gently draw back. Press up. And find that nice extension. Bring it back to your nice neutral spine here. And you're going to pick the leg up. Keeping that knee bent, you're going to externally rotate that leg. Bring it up towards the upper arm and then place it down. And then you're just going to reverse it right away. So bring it up to the side, reach it back behind you, rotate it to parallel, and then lower down. Straight back behind you, externally rotate towards the upper arm and down, and then reverse. You can smooth it out a little if you'd like. 2 more. Trying to keep your shoulders nice and square. Good. Last one. Open it out to the side. Back behind you and down. Extend that leg straight back behind you. Lift it in line with your hips, but not much higher. And you're just going to tap it down and then float it back up. Really trying to find length through the back of the leg and the front of the leg simultaneously. So think about reaching back. Foot pointed or flexed, doesn't matter. Think about touching the wall behind you. 2 more. Last one, leave that leg long and then sweep it out to the side and then bring it back behind you. Externally rotate as you sweep it out. You can lower the leg if you need and then bring it back behind you. Actually, we will all do that. We will all externally rotate and lower and tap and then bring it back to neutral. 4 more. 3. Really focusing on that femur rotation through your hip. Sort of no more Tin Man kind of movement here. Last one. Pause. Bend that knee towards the ceiling and then bring your knee underneath you. Same thing on the other side. Bring that leg straight back behind you. Externally rotate. Bring your knee up towards your upper arm and then drop it back down. Open it out to the side like the fire hydrant. Back to neutral and then drop it down. Back up. externally rotate, feel it slide forward without C curve here, back down, and then out to the side. You can start to smooth it out if you'd like. One more full one after this, so back down and up, out to the side and down, and extend your leg nice and long. Lowering it down and then lift. Check in, make sure your weight hasn't shifted all the way over to your right side. That left arm is doing a lot of work to help keep you nice and square. Feel your ribs are picked up from the floor. You haven't started to just fall down towards the ground. You're nice and connected through the front of your torso. 3 more with the lift. 2. Last one, leave it lifted. Externally rotate out to the side, tap, and then bring it back to center. Tap it down with that external rotation and bring it back up. Now, as your leg is lowering over to the left, make sure that you're not falling your weight all the way over to that right side. Try to counteract it and make sure you're truly in control of that leg lowering. If the lower is too much, you're just going to externally rotate and then internally rotate. 2 or 3 more. Last 2. 1 more. Bend that knee in, point the foot up towards the ceiling, and then draw it back in underneath you. From here, bring your knees nice and wide, reach your hands forward, and come back into a nice child's pose. And then you're going to place your elbows onto the floor, and then you're going to stack one hand on top of the other on your nape of your neck, upper spine, in between your shoulder blades area. You may need to walk your arms closer in or elbows closer to your head. Take a nice big inhale here. Feel your ribs expand wide to the side, and then exhale. Try to send your fingertips a little farther down your back. You may start to feel this is a nice stretch in your triceps or your armpits. But really feel that broadening and separation of the shoulder blades from the spine and the width across your back. If your arms are stacked, cross one on top, the opposite hand on top. 2 more breaths. Last one. Good, and then lengthen your arms long and slide yourself all the way up, coming into a nice high kneeling position. If this is too much on your knees, go ahead and just fold your mat in half. We're going to be doing some hinging here. So bring your arms straight out in front of you, hands in line with your shoulders. The key here is keeping your ribs right over your hips and they move together. Your shoulders don't go back where your ribs are forward or like this as well. So think about 2 panes of glass. You are stuck between them. Feel your ribs and hips connect. So think about hip bones drawing up for that little bit of length through the low back. Arms are out in front of you. They sort of serve as a counterbalance. From the tip of your head to your knees, you are one long line as you hinge back and then reach forward, grow tall. But that does not mean lead with your sternum. So hinging back, crown of the head to the knees, all one long line, and then lift back up. Think about that length too as you go back, stretching out through the thighs, and then lifting up tall here. Now you're going to send your right arm down and back. Your gaze is going to follow your arm and then come forward. Staying on that right side, sweep the arm down and back, opening through the chest, but the hips stay square. If this is too much, you just bend one arm and take out the rotation. 2 more. Good. Other side. Following that left hand with your gaze as you hinge back, rotate through the upper torso. 4 more. 3. 2. And last one. Pause here. Sit back onto your heels and then bring your hands towards the floor and come all the way down onto the ground. Make a nice pillow for your head or for your forehead with your hands stacked one on top of the other. And then you're just gonna let your legs come a little wider than hip width, and you're just gonna let your hips wiggle from one side to the other. And then as you're wiggling your hips, start to feel the heaviness come into your pubic bone. Your hip bones start to press in towards the floor. And that engagement from the ribs to the hips, that is working together, you still have that engagement. And then just make sure that your ribs aren't aggressively pressing into the ground. You want that gentle drawing in between them as well. And then you're gonna reach so far from that, through that left toe, through that leg's gonna float up off the ground. Your thigh may still be on the ground, that's totally fine, and then float it back down. Like my whole leg does not lift if I'm keeping myself in a nice neutral pelvis. You do not want to feel all the tension here in your low back as you're lifting too high and just crunching it. You want to keep that length. If you want to bring one hand to your low back, if that helps you, go for it. 2 more. Last one. And then bend at the knee, keeping that leg in that slight lift position. And then you're gonna let the thigh descend towards the floor. And then you're gonna reach this sole of the foot or the toe, whichever one is more comfortable, towards the ceiling, and then drop it down. So you're doing that little hamstring engagement here just on one side. So make sure that the weight is staying evenly distributed across your pelvis, so that all the pressure towards the floor has not gone solely to that right side. 2 more. Last one, lengthen that leg all the way down towards the floor, switching to the left side. Lengthen through that leg, just like we were doing in all fours, and release down. And lift. And lower. 5 more. Again, make sure that there's that weight evenly distributed across your hip bones. 2 more. And think about lifting from where the glute meets the hamstring rather than the foot. The bottom of your leg is just along for the ride. 2. Last one, keep that leg lifted. Flex at the knee, flex at the ankle, or point the toe up towards the ceiling, your choice. And you're going to pulse it up and up and up. Like an inch, half an inch, a quarter inch. The thought of lifting, any of that will do. For 3, 2, last one, leave that leg where it is, and now bend the right leg in with the left. Glue the heels together, and then you're going to press the heels together and feel that gentle squeeze and engagement. You'll more than likely feel the lift of your pelvic floor here, and then press up and release down, and press up and down, up and down. For 8, 7, 6, and if this is too much with the lift, then you're just going to do a little exaggerated squeeze of the heels for 5, 4, 3, 2, last one. Lengthen both legs long, keep them lifted, float them, and then start to flutter kick, keeping your hips nice and steady on the mat for 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, last one. Lower your legs all the way down towards the floor, and then give your hips a little shake from one side to the other. From here, bring your hands right underneath your shoulders. The tip of your nose is touching the ground. You're going to think like you have a little marble under your nose, and you're going to try to roll the marble gently away, and then your gaze will follow as you start to lift yourself up into a little extension. So right now I am really arching my low back, so I'm pressing my ribs into the floor. So I'm going to think about gently drawing my ribs together, finding that length through my low back, and then I can actually lift a tiny bit higher. And then lower down all the way. If this arm positioning is not working for you, you can move your arms a little farther away from you, or you can just bring them back by your sides. Palms face up if they are by your side. So think about that little roll of a fake marble, that press down, Length through the low back as you lift up, and then lower all the way back down. 2 more like this. You can feel the gentle like pull in of your shoulder blades towards your spine without going like this. Just a gentle movement, and then come all the way back down. 1 more time, you're gonna pause up. Even if your arms are on the ground here or hands underneath your shoulders, you're gonna bring your arms back by your sides. Find that length through the low back, lower down if you need, and float both legs up. And then you're gonna lower everything down 2 to 3 inches. And then lift up. And lower everything down, almost to the floor, and then lift. 3 more. 2. Going to your range of motion, no one else's. Last one. Pause here at the top. Start to flutter your arms and legs. Hips stay heavy for 5, 4, 3, 2. Last one, and then lower everything all the way down. Bring your cheek to the floor. Let your shoulders round forward. Give your hips a shake. And then when you're ready, hands underneath your shoulders. Press yourself back into a nice child's pose. Take a second here to really breathe into your back and your sides, and then melt down. And then when you're ready, you're going to come onto your back again. So, feet planted on the floor, your head is on the ground. Your arms are just resting by your sides. But think gently about finding a bit of external rotation in the upper arm so you get that nice width across your chest. And then feel your ribs in the back sort of settle into the floor. You're going to bring your right leg up into tabletop, and your left leg is just going to stay on the floor. You're going to let your leg fall out to the right, and then resist to bring it back in. Let it fall out to the right, keeping that left hip nice and heavy and that left leg really still. Letting it fall out. Think about your inner thigh drawing in as you bring that leg in on the right side. 2 more. Last one. Good. Then from here, let that leg come away from you like you're going to tap it to the floor. You can, but you don't need to go all the way down. And then draw it back up. And then let it go down and up. Check in on your abdominals as you lower your leg away. Are they puffing up towards the ceiling? If they are, number 1, make sure you're breathing before you start to move that leg. Number 2, reduce your range of motion. You may also just be holding on instead of finding that great engagement. Pause here at the top. You're going to lift your leg out, or let your leg fall out to the right. Let it lower down in that external rotation. Bring it back to the center and then bring it up. And this time you're going to reverse. So just what we were doing on all 4s, but making gravity work a little harder for us here. Down, out to the side, and then up and in, and reverse. 1 more like this. And then lower down. We're going to trade sides. So that left leg is going to lift. Right leg nice and stable, hip heavy. Let that left leg fall out to the side. Make sure your knee and foot are also moving out at the same time. You're not externally rotating. Your whole leg is going out. Forward. A hand on that right hip can always be a nice little reminder. Try to take the tension out of the upper body as best you can. Last one. Lower that leg down all the way or closer to the floor than being a tabletop. Four more. 2. Last one. And now we're going to make that half circle. So out to the side, down, bring it to the center and up, and then reverse. So down, side, out, back in. And again, you can smooth it out a little bit more as you do a couple of them. We're going to do one more. Excuse me. From here, you're going to bring your right leg up to meet your left. You're going to glue your heels together, and you're going to open your legs out to the side. And then you're going to resist to bring the knees in. And then open them out to the side. Resist to bring it in. 4 more. Again, check in on your abs. What are they doing? Keeping your head down. Last one. Leave your legs in this little diamond shape. You can extend and make your legs a tiny bit longer to elongate your diamond if you'd like. And then, hinging from the hips, you're going to let your legs fall away a few inches. And then resist to bring them back in. Bring your hands to your abdominals. Check in on what's happening. They should slightly descend as you begin your exhale rather than like aggressively press up. If they're puffing up towards the ceiling, bend your knees more and reduce your range of motion. 2 more. Last one. Good. Bring your legs back together. Bring them to tabletop. And then you're going to bring your hands behind your head. Curl your head, neck, and shoulders up. Feel your ribs slide down towards your hips. And then you're going to alternate. Your left leg is going to tap towards the floor. And then your right. Try to keep those shoulder blades off the mat from that nice C curve in the front. 2 more. Last one to the left. Last one to the right. Bring both legs up. And this time you're going to pull one leg in, reach the other long, and twist and rotate. Really thinking about your rib going towards the opposite hip rather than your elbow touching your knee. For 3. Moving nice and slowly. Those hips are staying nice and stable. Your abdominals have not started puffing up towards the floor, or up towards the ceiling. Last one to the left. Last to the right. Bring your knees all the way in and rock back and forth gently from one side to the other. And then you're going to rock yourself up. And you are going to come, perfect, onto your forearms here. So your elbows are underneath your shoulders. Let yourself sink down for just a second. Your hands can be on the ground or you can have little fists, your choice. If you have sleeves, you might want to roll them up. I feel like I'm sliding around in my sleeves here. So press the floor away. Find that width across your chest and your back. Bring your right leg into tabletop and your left leg up to meet it. Just something a little different here. So glue your heels together. Externally rotate the legs. Press out as though you have straps on like you're on a reformer. And then bend the knees in and resist. And then press out and resist to bring them back in. If this is uncomfortable for any reason through your upper body, go ahead and lay back down on your back. You can lift your head if you'd like, or just leave your head flat on the floor. Your choice. 4 more. 3. 2. Last one. Bring your legs together and then bend them all the way in. And then from here, you're going to let both legs fall out to the side and resist to bring them in. Both legs fall out. So now you're doing this open book situation like we were doing, but only opening one side of the book. 2. Last one. Here, bring your legs all the way together. Let them fall over to the left. Your hip can lift, but your chest stays square. And then resist to bring it back down. Staying to the left. Up and over. Feel your breath and the control through your torso to pull that right hip back down to the floor. 2 more. This dog lives the life. He's just laying in an armchair, his face on the chair looking out the window. No, now his eyes are closed. I'd like to sleep 12 hours a day. All right, pause at the top. Over to the right. Same thing, draw that hip back down. Think like you're wringing out a towel, but then there's like a magnet that pulls you back. And it goes sacrum to hip, not just hip flop to the ground. You're in control of those legs coming back to center. 5 more. Wringing out that torso. Like you can see the wrinkles in your skin if you were to look like you would a towel. 3, 2, last one. Good. Bring the left leg and the right leg down. Bring them nice and wide, and then you're just going to do your windshield wipers here. Again, after working those hip flexors a bunch, still pressing up through the forearms. Keeping that width, or the length through the torso. 1 more to each side. The last one. And then you're going to press yourself up and come over into all fours one last time. So, hands underneath your shoulders, knees under your hips, tuck the toes under here. Take a nice big inhale. Really feel your whole rib cage expand. Like, try to feel, if you're wearing a sports bra, like you're stretching the band of your sports bra. Exhale, float the knees up off the floor. Lower them back down. Take one more big, huge inhale. Exhale, float the knees off. And back down. One more time. Exhale, float the knees up. And then hold here. Take a nice big inhale. Make sure you're in a nice neutral spine. The crown of your head is reaching long towards the wall away from you. And you're going to pick up your right foot and your left hand. And you're just going to go forward an inch. And then you're going to come back an inch. And then you're going to switch sides. Opposite hand, opposite leg. Keeping your knees fairly close to the floor. And if this is too much with the movement, you're just going to pick your opposite arm and leg up off the ground. And back. One more time to the left. Last time to the right. And back. Drop your knees. Uncurl your toes. Sit back. Grab your hands like in a little fist. You're just going to do a little circle to let your wrists release. Other direction. We're going to come back into a bear plank one more time. So, find your nice all fours with your toes tucked under. Huge, expansive inhale. Exhale, float up. This time you're going to extend your right leg back behind you and bring your left leg to meet it. Lower your hips until you find that nice long line where everything is in this lovely plank. You could rest a tray on your back and it wouldn't go anywhere. And then you are going to lift your hips up towards that down dog. And then find yourself back in your plank position. If you need to drop to your knees at any point, do so. But you're going to point your toes, send your weight forward like you're looking over the edge of the cliff that is your yoga mat. And then you're going to shift your weight back. Find that down dog. And then again, come forward, feel the ribs and hips connect in the front of your body. Look over that cliff. Send your weight back. And then find your down dog. 2 more. Coming forward, look and reach over that cliff. Back and up. 1 more. Forward. Pause here. And then drop the knees. And come into a little child's pose here. Nice big inhale and then release. And then coming forward one last time. Have your shoulders underneath or over your hands. Slide your knees back, tuck your tailbone under. Find yourself in a nice kneeling plank here. Send your elbows back towards your hips and find length through the chest as you start to lower down all the way to the floor. Pick yourself up into a nice little extension here. Legs lift off the ground. Lower down. Press up in that one nice long line into your kneeling plank. Lowering all the way down. Lift up. Find that extension through the front of your body. Length through the low back as you lift the hips as well. Hands down. Press up. 2 more just like this. And we'll add on if you'd like. And up. Inhale as you lift. Maybe you can get a little higher. Maybe you can't. Exhale the floor away. If you want to add on, tuck the toes under, find yourself in a full plank. We're going to do 4 more, lowering all the way down nice and slowly. Lift up. You can extend your arms overhead if you want to continue to add on. Bring them back in, place them down. Exhale. Lift all the way up. Lowering all the way down. Lift. Extend the arms. Pull them back in. Toes tuck under. And then exhale the floor away to press up. 2 more. And again, you can do any part of this on your knees, not extending overhead. You can skip the push-up up and down altogether and just do the extension. But this is your last one. Extend the arms overhead. Pull them back in. Tuck the toes under. Take a nice big inhale. Exhale the floor away. Elbows are tucked in. Pause here. Drop to your knees if you'd like. Bend the elbows back for 8, 7, 6. Using your breath. You know you have it. Lots of it can help you. 2 more. Last one. Bend your knees. Bring them nice and wide. And then slide yourself all the way back. Let yourself really melt towards the floor. And just relax. Coming all the way over to the right. Press the floor away. Really take in that nice stretch on your left side. Again, if you want, you can slide that right arm underneath and try to breathe in a little more to the ribs on that left side. And then shift your weight up and over. Hips go to the right, arms reach over to the left, same thing. And again, slide those arms under if you want. And then walk yourself back to the center. Heel yourself all the way up. And then bring your legs over to the right. You can separate them a little or a lot, your choice. Place that left hand on the ground, and you're just going to side bend up and over. And then counter stretch to the right. One more time to the left. And to the right. Swing your legs around. Same thing, find whatever little position here is comfortable for you. Side bend to the right. And over. And to the right one more time. And left. Bring your leg around so that you're in a nice seated position. Whatever seated position is the most comfortable for you is the one you should do. So, just like in everything we've done, really focus on your ribs stacked over your hips here, and then that your ribs are nice and heavy in the front. Take a nice big inhale to your hands on either sides of your ribs or towards your back, wherever you need the reminder. And then exhale. Feel that gentle engagement through the core. Inhale as you lift your arms up. And then exhale, externally rotate your arms. and then send them down by our sides. And you are all finished. Have a lovely weekend.